Hello, Imogen Sara Smith, or should I call you Professor Smith? What should I call you?
You can call me Imogen. Hi, Erin.
Oh, why, thanks. Great to have you. Of course, we've known each other a while, but I'm really, really excited that you have joined our platform and really excited about what you're going to do on our platform. And so this is the our new series, Guide Spotlight, and we are going to talk about you, what you're going to cover, and what you think people can expect. So first, Imogen, I think you're pretty well known, but if you don't mind, for those that don't know you, would you introduce yourself and talk about what you've done, where you've worked?
So I am Imogen Sara Smith. I think of myself as a writer and a cinephile. I guess sometimes some of my bios say film critic, some of them say film historian. I think of myself as a writer and a cinephile. I have written 2 books. One is about Buster Keaton. It's called Buster Keaton, The Persistence of Comedy. The other is called In Lonely Places, Film Noir Beyond the City. Film noir is one of my main areas of interest that a lot of people probably know me for. But I love classic Hollywood cinema. I love pre-code. I love French cinema. I love Japanese cinema. And I love British cinema. Mostly kind of pre-1970s, I would say, is sort of my wheelhouse. But I have written for Sight and Sound, Film Comment, Reverse Shot, a lot of different places. I am also currently the editor of the Film Noir Foundation's magazine, Noir City. But where a lot of people may have seen me or know me from is the Criterion Channel and Criterion's discs. I have been lucky to have worked a lot with Criterion over the last 10 years, both writing for discs, writing for the website, doing some programming, introducing series. And so that's really kind of how I got into this mode of talking, teaching, sharing. I have also done formal teaching. I've taught at NYU. I taught a film criticism course in the graduate students at NYU. I've taught at the School of Visual Arts. I've also taught online classes for Main Media Workshops and the 92nd Street Y. So I have a fair amount of experience teaching now. I think that kind of sums it up.
That's a lot. You're pretty qualified. You got the job, so you're hired.
Great.
Or as they'd say in no country, you're bona fide. So, yeah, we love the work you do, and I can vouch. I've had Criterion podcasts for 10 years or so. So that's where I learned about you, and that's when I first saw your visual essays and commentaries, and I can vouch they're all amazing, and you really know your stuff. And even though you mentioned a few film topics, I know that you're able to get to any film topic. So yeah, I just know that because I know that. So, but you're going to be teaching a Powell and Pressburger class here at CineJourneys in May. So what is it about Powell and Pressburger that made you want to teach them?
Well, I have in the course description planted my flag and said that I consider them the most original and bold and creative filmmakers of the 1940s anywhere in the world. Why I want to teach the course is not only do I love their films, but I find their films among the most enjoyable and exciting and rich to talk about and to analyze. And I think you can just learn. So it's like when you're talking about the Archers, you are talking about cinema, and you can learn so much and explore so much about cinema through their films. I'm particularly interested in the relationship between words and images and between the visual and the narrative in their films. I've always been kind of a champion of British cinema, which tends to be a somewhat overlooked or dismissed cinema, and the specific knock against it has always been it's overly literary, it's overly theatrical, it's too, sort of concerned with narrative and performance and language. And I feel like Powell and Pressburger's films are the films that show that does not mean that a film is not cinematic. And I particularly, I've thought a lot about this because if you read Michael Powell's autobiography, which is really a joy to read, and he's extremely opinionated, but he constantly stresses the importance of the visual in their films, and he says, my films are all about the images. He started out working in the silent era. He's one of these people who kind of continued to think of silent film as the purest form of cinema. And yet, if you look at their films, particularly, there is this arc over the course of Powell and Pressburger's career towards this idea of the composed film, of the film, and these sort of sequences that start to appear that have little or no dialogue, that are all composed of images and movement and music. But many of their films, particularly the ones that I love the most, I Know Where I'm Going, Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, A Matter of Life and Death, A Canterbury Tale, they're actually extremely verbal films, and they kind of daringly include long sections of people talking, sometimes with little or no sort of visual expression. I mean, a perfect example of this would be, for those who know the film, my favorite scene in The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp is Anton Walbrook's speech in the refugee office. He is playing a German who has come to England as a refugee during World War II, as before World War II, as Emmerich Pressburger did. And he explains why he wanted to come back to England. And it's shot in a single take of more than, I think it's about 3.5 minutes. And the camera is just slowly, slowly creeping towards him. And it's just his face, and it's this speech that he unfolds, that it becomes this incredible meditation on place and memory and the past and homesickness, and and he's talking about the whole political situation in Germany and his marriage and all of this stuff. Just he's just sort of unspooling it in this spoken, in this long speech, and it's totally riveting. It's totally cinematic, but using language and performance. I also, in I Know Where I'm Going, which is my personal desert island Powell and Pressburger movie. It's all about the voices. It's all about these stories that are woven into the film in this incredibly masterful way, where he's, you hear the first part of a story, and then there's a long, wait to hear the end of the story, which appears at, later in the film. There are these kind of word painting sections almost. There's a scene where a character just describes this event, the Highland Gathering at Oban, and she just talks about it. There's no visual representation of it, but it's like she's painting this picture with words. And so I'm really interested in those moments, and in the way that in their films, the words and the images are never doing the same thing. I think part of why people think of an over-reliance on language as being not cinematic is that people are thinking of there being a sort of words and images telling you the same thing, and thus, be sort of, movies almost become too easy to digest. In Powell and Pressburger's films, they're always doing like two different things, or you're only getting an image, or you're only getting words. And so it's always about these kind of, making your imagination, putting your imagination to work, or, there's like, it stimulates you in a way because it's sort of incomplete, which is one of the things that makes their films so exciting. And I just, I feel like, every shot, every scene of their films is something, different and vivid, and not the way anyone else would have done it. So, I have had a great time teaching. I've taught, individual classes on them before. I've always really enjoyed it. I really enjoy hearing what is coming up for other people as they're watching these films. So,
Well, I can't wait. And I don't know if you noticed, I've been scrolling through the syllabus, and we'll put the link in. If people listening on audio can't see this, obviously, but I just love seeing the way you organize the films. Of course, I know the filmmakers very well, but Islands, War, Place and Time, Heaven and Earth, and then finally my favorite, Obsession. Not my favorite. I don't love Obsession, but I love the way they portray Obsession. And I think the two films you showed, you're using Red Shoes and Peeping Tom are great ways, even though Peeping Tom is not technically the partnership. It's just Michael Powell, but had a great Criterion release last year. So can't wait. It's going to be, I get a free seat. So glad I started a film company.
yeah. So I just would add, it will be arranged thematically. It will cover the whole of their partnership. I also will talk a little bit about Michael Powell's
Mhm.
films before,
Yeah.
particularly Edge of the World, his first real personal film, and then Peeping Tom. But I want to make this class something that can be an introduction to them for people who have maybe some interest, have seen a few of their films, but don't know a lot or haven't seen a lot of the films. I also hope that it will
Mhm.
be, there will be a lot there for people who do know the films, because, I'm going to try to look at them in some different ways, group them in some different ways. So
No.
that is my aim, is to make
Well,
this
I,
both for kind of beginners and fans.
nice. I know about all of them, so I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to silently judge. I'll be more of a facilitator role, but looking forward to you doing that because they are yeah, they can contextualize. And I'm a history guy too, so I appreciate that kind of context as well. So yeah, it's going to be amazing. Can't wait. And yeah, again, we'll put the link in the notes here. Um, Imogen, what other topics would you like to cover down the road? I know we're doing this in May. I don't know what you have planned elsewhere beyond this, but I know you have a lot of interests. So anything else you'd like to cover?
I would love to teach a whole class on Agnes Varda. She is one
Mm,
of my absolute heroines in life, in art, in film. Um, and again, someone who I think Varda's best known films, Cleo from 5 to 7, Vagabond, are very well known.
mhm,
But there's so much there. She has such an interesting, varied career. There's interesting stuff to explore in the relationship between, her photography and film and
mhm.
installations and the other work that she did. It's also just interesting to look at her career and understand how hard she had to work, that you know
Yes.
throughout her career, how she had to struggle to come up with the money to make her films. um you know there's just and she is just such an inspiring person.
Mm,
Her, kind of boundless curiosity and creativity. So that's one,
wow.
that I could see being a whole class.
That's great.
I adore French cinema, as I know this is something that you and I share, Aaron, our love of French
Mhm.
cinema. So another thought that I had, that might be a class, or it might be, a journey or something, is looking at uh, Robert Bresson and Jean-Pierre Melville together. This is also something
Mm,
that I did. I did a larger French cinema course that I taught, and I did one class where I paired them. Jean-Pierre Melville always insisted that Bresson had been inspired by his first film, Le Silence de la Mer,
yeah,
and think that's a
see
plausible
that.
claim. Stylistically, it's a really kind of radical film, and they're both, interestingly similar in the kind of, austerity of their films. Um, some of the aspects of their use of sound, and their
Mhm.
also kind of their use of language, and of course extremely different in the sort of
Mhm.
but the sense of solitude, the sense of, um, this sort of the way they boil
Isolation
things,
kind of? Yeah.
the sense of
Yeah.
isolation and of of a concern with the sort of you know the spiritual in Bresson, and this kind of sense of I don't know, the honor, I guess, in Melville.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
also over the course of their careers, in particular, the sort of increasing pessimism, the sense of this sort of
Mhm.
concern with betrayal, with morality. So I think it would be quite interesting
Hmm.
just to kind of watch their films side by side. There are some interesting ways in which some of their early films are quite different from what we associate them with. I'm thinking with Melville of When You Read This Letter, which is a sort of you know overheated melodrama with a female protagonist, and Bresson, Les Dames de Bois de Boulogne, and things like that. Um,
Yeah.
so that's one idea. I also really adore Japanese cinema, and would love to look at some, you know, filmmakers like Hiroshi Shimizu, who's become a big favorite of
Oh, that's
mine.
a great one. Yeah.
Um, I was lucky enough to see a lot of his films in a series that happened here in New York in 2024. But there are some of his films available on the Criterion Channel. I find him a really, really fascinating filmmaker, and also a great humanist filmmaker, which is also something I
Mhm.
think we need right now. Um, so hopefully at some point, I'll do some Japanese cinema.
Nice. Well, I'm excited. Of course, I love Japanese cinema, love French cinema, love all cinema really. But as you know, especially French. Um, what excites me most, well, Varda, obviously. I mean, I her storytelling and fiction and fact. Her documentaries are just stellar, and I think they get slept on a lot. I don't some. There's some The Beaches of Agnes. I think is a big one. The Gleaners and I, but there's some others.
Daguerreotypes, I really, really love
Daguerreotypes. Yeah.
daguerreotypes.
Yeah, I tore through that box set. And some of her shorts, the Black Panthers, yeah. So lots to mine with Varda, and also she's just so likable. I remember her in the Criterion Closet. She was just like, okay, she took a nap. So that's Varda. Bresson, Melville. I've actually studied some Melville in film studies. So I wish you were my teacher, but my teacher was fine. But no complaints there. But they're also one of the things I think about with those two is the French New Wave and the tradition of quality. There were a lot of filmmakers that fell out of favor, older filmmakers, and they, were pretty much able to maintain their careers. Some of the few during that. So I'm sure you'll dig into that.
Yeah, I mean, they both are filmmakers who inspired the new wave,
Yes.
and, Melville in particular is this kind of
Hmm.
transitional figure who is both, an older generation, and, but he's working in this completely independent way with his own studio.
Very
He's
much.
going out
Yeah.
and shooting on location. So he was
Mhm.
actually is in some ways a kind of father of the new wave. But then, his style, moves in this direction towards this extremely formal and stylized mode that's quite
Mhm.
different. And he's very much, the great loner of French cinema in the way he worked. Um, but Bresson was somebody that the new wave filmmakers all
Yeah.
revered among that generation who had, gotten their start during the occupation. So it's just a fascinating period in French cinema as
Hmm.
well.
Well, wow, I can't wait. All those topics sound fascinating, and I'm sure plenty more. I know, we're gonna get into Noirvember, which I've joked is like your tax season for accountants, probably. But yeah, looking forward to what else you come up with. Powell and Pressburger is a great start, and so I'll be there front and center. Well, I have to be. That's my that's my job now. But so to sign up, you can just go to the registration page. We'll put it in the link here. We have something coming that maybe in the next month or two that I think people that want to follow you more closely will appreciate. Now, in the meantime, if you want to follow Imogen, you can subscribe to CineJourneys as a membership. You'll get on the mailing list for one, so you'll get notifications of all her classes, journeys, whatever you choose to do, and also updates to the site. We're about to put a new dashboard up, actually, very, very soon, probably within a week or two, maybe, of the recording. So yeah, fun times, exciting times. We're glad to have this platform to celebrate cinema with people like you and with people that are interested in cinema. And we don't get into politics or anything like that, but we also like to have our own safe space to where we can focus on what we love and not focus on what we don't love. So that's all I'll say there. So thank you, Imogen, for this brief chat, and look forward to what we do.
I am really looking forward to this first experience teaching for CineJourneys and just becoming a part of this community. I know a lot of people are looking for that community where you can get away from some of the toxic stuff. And I have high hopes for CineJourneys being that community.
Yeah, we need community right now. That's that's where we'll leave this. Thank you so much. Talk
Thanks,
soon.
Aaron.